At night in the house, a man and a woman are arguing. Their shadows wave their arms, hurling insults at each other. All of this is heard by a teenage girl whose body seems to be convulsing from the sharp bird's cry echoing in the surroundings. She leaves her room, her ears twitching strangely in response to her parents' shouts. Then she runs into the forest. Later, her father is scolded over the phone for letting his chick slip away, and now controlling her mother will be much more difficult. Meanwhile, a girl named Gretchen moves to live with her father, Luis, and his new wife, Beth, in the Bavarian Alps after her mother's death in America. The family is greeted by the hotel owner, Dr. Koenig, for whom Beth and Luis have designed a new hotel. The woman hurries to show the first sketches, which delight the owner. He recalls that the couple first came to him exactly 8 years ago, and it seems that's when Alma appeared in their lives. While the parents are exchanging pleasantries with the doctor, Gretchen goes to the bathroom. She listens to messages from her American friends who deeply regret her departure. Gretchen played and sang in a band, and now they have to find a singer of her caliber. They send her new songs, confident that Gretchen's mother would have liked them. But suddenly someone starts banging on the girl's stall. She announces that it's occupied. A stranger enters the next stall, and for some reason, Gretchen is scared. But hearing Beth call for her, she leaves and forgets about the strange incident. The family begins unloading their belongings when Alma gets frightened by something in the forest. Gretchen doesn't understand her, and meanwhile, Dr. Bonomo, Koenig's main assistant, arrives at the hotel. Bonomo is surprised. She didn't know the couple had another child. Koenig immediately joins the conversation, hugging and stroking Gretchen's shoulders, which the girl finds decidedly unpleasant. Later, hiding in her room, she dials the voicemail and listens to her mother's voice, promising to come back home. The conversation is interrupted by the arrival of her father and Koenig. The doctor offers Gretchen a job at his hotel. Hearing about the salary, the girl immediately agrees. The next day she starts working. Her colleague, Beatrix, explains the rules and advises her to go to the boss with difficult questions, as his estate is nearby. Unexpectedly, Gretchen notices a woman suffering from nausea before her husband comes to take care of her. Koenig distracts Gretchen by promising to take her home. The girl refuses, as she has a bicycle and can get there herself, but the man insists, saying it's dangerous in the mountains at night. Later, Gretchen plays music in her room, wearing headphones and not hearing Alma enter. Suddenly, a piercing bird cry echoes from the forest, causing the girl to have a seizure. Her body shakes, fists clench. Gretchen grabs her by the shoulders and seems to get stuck in a time loop, reliving the last few seconds over and over until Alma throws her sister off. The sound stops, and a worried Luis and Beth rush into the room, taking the girl away. The next day, Gretchen tells Beatrix about this, calling Alma her father's daughter. Gretchen considers the girl a monster, believing she ate her twin sister in the womb. This is known as the vanishing twin syndrome, where one fetus dies early in pregnancy and the other absorbs it. Impressed, Beatrix asks her colleague to cover for her, as her boyfriend, a policeman named Eric, is already waiting for her. At night, Gretchen falls asleep at the reception desk. She is woken up by a stranger wanting to book a room. Ed invites the American to visit Paris, when suddenly the same nauseous woman appears in the hall, drinks a drink from the display case in one gulp, and quietly leaves. Then Koenig calls the reception, asking Gretchen not to ride home on her bike and to wait for him, but the girl refuses, hangs up, and leaves. Everything around is deserted and quiet. Gretchen locks the doors and rides home. She puts on her headphones and doesn't hear any sounds around her. She doesn't know that Koenig has rushed to the hotel and, not finding her, goes outside and starts playing the flute, as if calling someone from the forest. Meanwhile, Gretchen suddenly notices a strange shadow behind her and sees a woman in a light coat chasing her. The girl manages to run into the doors of a night gas station seeking help, but accidentally hits her head on the glass, suffering a severe cut. She sees the woman who scared her, preparing to enter the lobby, but then the cashier comes out, surprised at Gretchen's state, as she sees no woman at all. Later, the police arrive, and the girl's taken to the hospital, where the officer dismisses her story about the pursuer as a prank. Her wound is treated, and then she sees her father. It turns out that, worried about Alma's seizure, her parents brought her in for an examination. Dr. Bonomo suspects epilepsy, which could be triggered by disturbing sounds. Gretchen calls her voicemail and says that something strange is happening in this place. She really wants to go home and is saving money for the move. The next day, a man named Henry approaches Gretchen, claiming to be a detective investigating the night incident. However, Gretchen refuses to talk, especially as Ed arrives, announcing that she's leaving the hotel and offers the American a ride with her. Gretchen takes all the money from the register, grabs her guitar, and gets into Ed's car. The girls race down the road. Gretchen talks about her home in America, and suddenly, hearing the birds cry, she is thrown into a time loop again. The woman in light appears on the road, and Ed swerves sharply, causing an accident. Gretchen comes to and sees the woman pulling Ed from the car and tossing her aside, then trying to reach Gretchen. The girl screams in terror and wakes up in the hospital. In the morning, she is visited by Koenig, who says something strange. But when her father enters the room, Koenig pretends he was accepting her apology and leaves. Luis is very angry with his daughter and informs her that he's leaving for home, despite Gretchen begging him not to leave her alone. He doesn't believe her stories, as she ran off with a stranger after robbing the register. After the meeting with her father, Gretchen visits Henry again, who tells her that he and his wife were staying in a separate bungalow. One night, he woke up to see that woman next to his wife. She left for the forest, and he saw that his wife had choked on her vomit. Gretchen immediately remembers the girl at the hotel, who had also suffered from nausea. They go to her bungalow, but no one is inside. The pair decides to keep an eye on the room. That evening, Beatrix and Eric check into the room. While Eric steps out, a bird cry echoes from the forest, and Eric gets trapped in a time loop. The woman from the forest enters the room, frightening Beatrix until she loses consciousness. The woman tries to inject something into her. Gretchen and Henry enter the room. The woman lets out a terrifying bird cry, but Henry shoots her with a towel-wrapped gun, setting the cloth on fire. The woman runs away, and the pair turns Beatrix on her side to prevent her from choking. In the morning, Gretchen sees Koenig playing with Alma on the terrace. She demands answers about what's happening at the resort, but the doctor suddenly starts playing the flute, after which Luis demands his daughter stop asking foolish questions, and the doctor recalls that he delivered her a package. Inside are Gretchen's mother's belongings. This forces Luis to confess that he sold their old home, which enrages his daughter. Gretchen remembers calling her mother and listens to her messages on the found voicemail. And suddenly she hears Alma's voice, asking the woman to come and make her sister happy. Gretchen leaves the room and discovers that her family has disappeared. Koenig informs her that Alma had a seizure and was taken to the hospital. He offers to give the girl money and take her to the nearest train station, from where she can leave for wherever she wants. Gretchen writes a note to her parents asking them not to look for her and gets into Koenig's car. On the way, the doctor marvels at the cuckoo bird, calling it a remarkable creature that needs help reproducing. Soon they arrive at the doctor's house, and Gretchen sees Eric holding Henry hostage. Koenig explains that Henry was recently fired from the police after taking on the wrong case. After this, the doctor sprays pheromones into Gretchen's face and locks her in the pool. Then he plays the flute again, explaining that she will serve science well as adolescents need training. Gretchen tries to escape, but the bird cry echoes again, trapping her in a time loop. She watches in horror as a girl approaches her, incapacitating her with a blow to the ears. Meanwhile, Alma is being examined by Dr. Bonomo, and Koenig reminds Gretchen's parents that they must hurry with the hotel construction as the new species needs to mate. He regrets what happened to Henry's wife, but she simply lost control because she lost her offspring. Koenig is delighted that Henry was lucky enough to witness 3 egg-layings at once, while others haven't seen any. He orders Eric to take Henry outside and shoot him. Soon, gunshots are heard. Koenig covers Gretchen with a pillow, preparing to help her cope with nausea. But suddenly, Henry appears in the room, armed with Eric's gun. He shoots Koenig and the girl, freeing Gretchen. At the same time, Alma's mother feels unwell. Dr. Bonomo gives her some medicine, and she quiets down. Henry then confesses that women are likely impregnated at the hotel. Gretchen sympathizes with his loss, but the detective suddenly tells her that cuckoos lay their eggs in other birds' nests. Then they wait for them to raise their offspring. Suddenly, Gretchen is struck by nausea. Henry sees a photo where her parents are celebrating their honeymoon at this very place and realizes that Alma is not the couple's biological daughter. At this time, Luis contacts his daughter, telling her that Beth is unwell, so they are heading to the hotel for the night, leaving Alma at the hospital. He doesn't listen to Gretchen's objections and hangs up. Henry and Gretchen then go to the clinic, where Bonomo observes Alma, noting her resemblance to her surrogate mother, Beth. She hopes to conduct an experiment to reunite Alma with her main cuckoo mother, the woman in light. This will accelerate the offspring's development and skills. The first meeting between Alma and her biological mother is about to take place. Gretchen watches all this from the hallway, and Henry realizes that these are brood parasites who don't impregnate but implant eggs. He and his wife wanted to conceive a child, and it could have been just like Gretchen's parents. He declares that he will end the experiment as soon as the mother arrives, and then Koenig appears in the lab, having survived Henry's shot. He kills Bonomo and her assistant as he plans to finish the experiment himself. Henry takes aim at Alma. Gretchen cannot allow this, and although Henry tries to restrain her, she wounds him with a knife and escapes. Gretchen frees Alma and leads her into the hallway, but then the Cuckoo mother cries out and the girl responds. Gretchen immediately raises the knife above her sister's head, stopping the mother. The sister commands Alma to cover her ears and not leave her side. The girl complies, but suddenly pushes Gretchen away and runs off. The Cuckoo mother chases Gretchen as she runs after Alma. The creature catches up with the girl in the archive room, but Gretchen finds a forgotten player and plugs her ears with headphones. And then Henry enters and knocks over the shelves, pinning both Gretchen and the Cuckoo underneath. Alma runs off, Henry follows her, and they encounter Koenig in the hallway, where a shootout ensues. Meanwhile, the Cuckoo mother tries to reach Gretchen, and she stabs the creature in the throat. The creature dies. Gretchen takes off its wig and heads to the hall, where Alma is caught in the crossfire between Henry and Koenig. Gretchen screams that the Cuckoo mother is dead, but Koenig doesn't believe her, so she throws the wig to the floor. The gunfight resumes, but Gretchen finds Alma just in time and tells her that she heard her message, and her mom would surely have said, "Thank you." The sisters finally come to an understanding. Gretchen picks up the girl to take her outside, but Koenig tries to take the girl away, and Henry still intends to kill the future Cuckoo mother. Then the girl lets out a piercing cry, similar to her mother's, disorienting the men. Gretchen and Alma manage to escape, and Koenig and Henry simultaneously shoot each other, killing them both. The sisters leave the building and find Ed, standing outside after being discharged from the hospital. She takes the girls far away from this place. The movie ends there.